Well, hello! Welcome back to the third episode of the Spoiled Rot Movie Review Show. My name is Ross Hoover, for those who don't know. And today, we're going to get into the second episode. I'm doing two episodes today because I have to catch up on the movie release schedule. I've been behind a little bit, just getting back from college after my first year. So we're going to cat back up here. We did King Arthur already today before. Today, we're going to do Alien Covenant. And then we're going to do two episodes next week. I won't announce what they are, but if you've seen the release schedule, you can probably guess what the next two are. It should be pretty obvious. But yeah, we're going to get into the second episode. I should mention this before because I did mention this in the King Arthur review, but I had to put a little editing thing up there, so I don't want to do this time. So for those of you listening, if you have not seen Alien Covenant, I would advise you not to listen to this episode because we're going to go into all the spoilers. I'm going to try to cover everything that happens in the film. I just like talking about film from a total aspect. So if I have to talk about it in a limited aspect, I feel like I'm confined in some way. But by being able to talk just fully, spoilers included, I feel like I'm just talking about it more freely and just more openly, and I don't have to hinder myself in any way. So with that in mind, if you're not wanting to hear spoilers for Alien Covenant, I would advise skipping away from this episode and just going out and see the film, because I would actually recommend it for you guys. If just an early recommendation, if you guys have not seen it yet, go pause this episode and then go see the film, and we can come back and talk about the episode. But for those of you who are still here, welcome. I hope you enjoyed that movie. We're going to talk about it a little bit here. First off, let's talk about some of the previous films that came out before this, because this is obviously not the first Alien film. This is a long list of Alien films. So I'll try to go over some of the other Alien films very quickly and just say how I feel about them. Alien, I love. It's a great survival horror film. I think it's probably one of the best ever made. I wouldn't change anything about it. Same for Aliens, except it's in an action sense. It's such a perfect action film. I don't think there's anything I would ever change about Aliens. It's a great film. Alien 3, I don't hate. It's just boring, and I don't think I can really sit through that ever again. Like, I watched it once, and it was kind of all I needed to see to watch it. I get what they were going for. It was just, like, not well done. It was kind of boring, but whatever. I kind of like the ending to it, but it's about it, honestly. Like, that's all I really care for that film. Alien 4 is a travesty of monumental proportions. The only parts that are good is when Joss Whedon's writing occasionally creeps in there and makes me laugh, but like, it's just a abominably bad movie. I absolutely hate Alien Resurrection. That's awful. Alien vs. Predator movies, the first one's a guilty pleasure, second one's bad. It's awful. No one needs to see the second Alien vs. Predator movie. We'll just watch the first one. It's fun, it's stupid, and it's just like an interesting little throwaway movie to watch. And then Prometheus. I like Prometheus, but it has a lot of things that are just really stupid in it. Like, when they're running away from the ship, they could just go to the right or the left, but they keep going straight for some reason. Like, that's stupid, But honestly, there are a lot of cool ideas in it that I like, and there's a lot of just neat visual ideas that I like. But it does just have a lot of the same things from Alien in it that, and it makes it a little stupider in some aspects, and in some ways it's a little bit smarter. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I like it overall. I think it's a fine film. And this is immediately following up from Prometheus. The plot of this movie is basically that about 10 years after the Prometheus film, there's this colony mission that's going out to this planet that's about 7 years away that they're still trying to get to. And while they're getting there, they hit a storm, and it basically brings down the ship. They have to revive the crew and fix the ship. And while they're fixing the ship, they get a transmission from this rogue planet that is completely habitable. And they decide that they're going to go and check out the transmission and figure out what's going on down there in that planet. And they find out that there is some sort of life living on there, but they don't know what. They don't know what's going on. But they wanted to try it because it's a habitable planet, and they don't have to go the extra 7 years to get to this other planet. They could just stay right here and live on this planet. But they end up finding that there's this pathogen that's living on this planet that basically kills you almost instantaneously and grows like this monster inside you, this alien. It's not the chest burster as you would think from the original Alien films. This is more like, I guess it's more like a spine burster or like a back burster. It's a white alien that has a little bit of a different design than the xenomorph that we're used to, and that gets them all real scared. But they're not able to go to the ship. The ship gets blown up because they're trying to kill one of the aliens, and it ends up blowing up their only ship. That goes back to like the main mothership. They brought like a little outpost, like lifeboat ship down there, and it blows up, and they can't get back to the big mothership. And so, while they're waiting to try to get some help from the people who are up in the mothership, they're trying to find like some way to keep themselves safe from this alien that's running around now. And David, the robot from Prometheus, comes and he's like, "I'll provide you shelter. I can tell you what's going on." Basically, he says that after the Prometheus mission failed, they went to this planet and they came to find the creators, but he accidentally released the pathogen that was in the ship from the first film that we saw the engineer tried to bring to Earth. They ended up bringing it to the engineer's homeworld and accidentally released there, and all the engineers died. And Mary and not Mary, but it's Shaw. Shaw was her last name. She dies too. She was gone on accident, and so he's the only thing left living on the planet. And now it's just a desert planet with a bunch of these pathogens in the place. So they stay with him. They get cooped up. But they end up finding out that David did not release the pathogen accidentally. He did it on purpose to kill the engineers because I guess he hates them. And he wanted to breed like this new life form, this like perfect being of life, that is the xenomorph that we know. And he just needed a human. He needed a human host, and I guess he tried it on Shaw, but that didn't work. So he uses one of the colonists who came, and we get the xenomorph that we know and love out of that. They have to get away from David, who basically created the xenomorph, and they basically, one of the people from the mothership has like this cargo bay that is detachable, and he can use it as a ship to get them all back up to the mothership. So they're all waiting for him to come down, and while they're doing that, they're trying to escape the xenomorph and David, who basically is now evil. And then they're able to get back on the ship and supposedly kill David, but the xenomorph still gets on the ship, and then they have to get him off, and they're finally safe, and everyone's gone back to the ship. But it turns out that one of the colonists who got back up to that ship safely had another one of those facehuggers get on him and implant another xenomorph into him while they're on the mothership, and then they have to kill that xenomorph. And then once they do that, there's only two of them left. It's Cowboy guy, Cowboy Tennessee, who we'll get into like all the characters later, but it's Cowboy Tennessee guy and the lady who basically is the Ellen Ripley of this movie. And they're finally going back into cryosleep to head back to the planet they were originally going to go to, which is going to take like another 7 years. And they've had this synthetic is what they call him, named Walter, that they had with them throughout the entire ship. And when they came back from the planet, they thought that they had brought Walter back onto the ship, but it turns out it was David instead, because they look alike. They're both played by Michael Fassbender, and an interesting duo role that I'll talk about in a bit. He actually killed Walter, and David is now in control of the ship, and they're going to this planet they originally intended to. And that is the plot of Alien Covenant. Now, what do I think about it? It's good. I will say this. Without the concept of David and the engineers from Prometheus, this film would be an absolute remake of Alien without any exceptions. This is pretty much just Alien again, but you have that David plotline that runs through this film, and that keeps it from being just an alien film. And I appreciate that about this film, because there was a lot of points where I was almost considering this to just be Alien through and through with no exceptions, which is fine, but that doesn't mean you're doing anything new, anything different. It's just the same thing over and over again, which Ridley Scott has been known to do on several occasions, is just take a plot that he's had before and reuse it a lot, especially with both Alien and Prometheus, how very similar they are. And here he almost gets into territory again, but the David subplot that basically weaves its way through this whole story makes it more than that, and that's fine. But if you go outside of that, this is just Alien. This is just the original Alien. There's a bunch of colonists, or in the first Alien, I believe it was just like space truckers who find this planet, get a transmission, they go and search it down, they find the engineer ship, they find the alien, they get picked off one by one. One of them is a robot, and there's a big twist at the end, and then it's just one, or in this case two people left alive at the very end, and they float off in a ship at the very end. So there's a lot of similarities between Alien and Alien Covenant, much as there was many similarities between Alien and Prometheus. So I'm worried that Ridley Scott is just doing the same thing over and over again. Like, he's adding some few new things, especially in this film, that are good and different and interesting, which is good because it can be new and not interesting, and that would be awful. But in this case, the David subplot is actually very interesting. I'm interested to see what they do with this character of David for, I guess, like the third Alien prequel movie that they want to do. I'm interested to see what they do with that. But yeah, the plot is good. I think that maybe for this third sequel, you go with something a little more original, because you've already done the space survivor subplot 3 times now, and it's starting to get a little grating. Like, at this point, even Alien 3 did that subplot, or that plot, and we're kind of ready to see something new in this Alien franchise, and just not the same thing over and over again, reminding us, oh yes, that original movie was a classic. Do something new, do something interesting. And if you're going to do something interesting, I would definitely use that David character as the linchpin to the beginning of this, like, a new, interesting. Even if you just want to say, hey, we want to try to do what Aliens did, not exactly Aliens, but take that concept of Aliens of making it bigger, making it more action oriented, and just try and do something like that. I would be all on board for that. Just like, don't remake Alien again. That's because you already did that twice now. And even Alien Covenant, which does add some new things, it's still at its core is still an Alien remake. And I appreciate that, but do something new, do something different, really, Scott. I guess that's just what I'm saying, as far as plot wise. So let's move to characters. Let's move to who are some of the characters of this film. I already mentioned before, Michael Fassbender plays both two characters in the film. He plays Walter and he plays David. And it's an interesting dual role that I really appreciate. Walter is more of this thinking man's robot. He's the one that makes the calculations. He's the one that's accurate. He's the one that does what needs to be done, but he doesn't have any emotions. He doesn't have any soul. Whereas David, he has a bit of a soul, like as much of a soul as like a robot can have, and he's able to create and think. But that's what makes him dangerous, is because he's too human. He's too able to think on his own and make things for himself, and that scares people. That something other than themselves can make something, create something, that scares people. They just want to believe that humans themselves can be the only things that can truly create. And so things like David are scary because they're something different, something new and weird, whereas Walter is more of just the robot computer mind that is there to make the calculations sort of idea. He's not there to have feelings or to make you sympathize with him. He's just the guy to calculate, time, speed, whether something is correct or not. He's basically like Wikipedia, the man. So I think that's I think it's an interesting dual role, and there's a great scene where both Walter and David are in the same scene, and David is teaching Walter to play the flute, and he's showing that like even though you are processed not to create, not to have things, you still have something inside you that lets you create, that lets you do the things you need to do to create new and interesting things. It's just that it's been repressed in you, and that you're not allowed to use it. And he's like, well, we're not allowed to use it because it's not our function in life. It's not what we're supposed to do. And there's this interesting back and forth. It's just really cool and neat. So Michael Fassbender is absolutely the best actor in this film. I would say he is probably like the saving grace of this film, as he is with a lot of things. Like even in something that was as bad as Assassin's Creed, he still had moments in that film where he was spot on, especially in the moments that go back to like the assassin times. That was the stuff where he really shined as an actor. And honestly, I would have seen the whole film just about those the assassin timeline rather than modern day timeline where he's like connected up to the monitor and they're like trying to in a science lab or whatever. That would have been more interesting just to see the historical aspect of it. But nonetheless, Catherine Waterston, who I've seen before, I don't remember where. You can leave it in the comments if you know where she's from. I don't quite remember what she's done beforehand, but in this film she plays a character named Danny, who is the wife of the ship captain, played by James Franco. Surprisingly enough, I didn't even realize that James Franco was going to even be in this film. And then he just shows up for like a cameo as like the guy who dies and then is off. And I was like, I guess they only had James Franco for like 5 minutes and then he's off. So, I mean, cool. Maybe we'll get, maybe we'll get like a novel about him or something. Who knows? I don't even know if they make novels on the Alien movies, but I'm sure there are. I'm sure I can go on Amazon and find some right now. But be that as it may, I was just interested to see that James Franco would make a cameo in this movie. And he makes a lot of cameos in like weird sci-fi horror movies that are like kind of like he was in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and now he's in this film. It's just interesting to see him pop up in different like projects like this, and then have him just do like balls out comedy like Neighbors or something like that, or not Neighbors. What was he in? A Pineapple Express, something like that. It's interesting. I like that thing. But yeah, Catherine Waterston, to get back to her character, she is very much, as I mentioned before, the Ellen Ripley of this film. She's basically the woman who no one's listening to. She's the logic. She's the one who's reasoning it out more than anyone else, and she's the one that needs to survive. And yeah, I like her character a lot. It's basically just an Ellen Ripley copy, but it works. It's honestly, I like her character. I don't think she gives a good the same as great a performance as Sigourney Weaver does, but she still does a fine job. I bought her performance. I bought what she did. I think she did a great job. It could have been better. I think there were a few times where she plays a scene a little too flatly, but it's only in places. I think overall she has a lot of good you have to have a really good like shocked horror face, and she does actually here, and it works. And most of the time I bought it every time she got like scared or horrified by something, but it doesn't always work. Occasionally she's a little she's not selling it, but she does pretty well here. Billy Crudup. Yes, he's the guy who takes over as the ship captain after James Franco dies. I was interested in his character because, for those of you who don't know, I am a Baptist. I am a Christian. I am a man of faith. I believe in God and the Bible and creation, all that good stuff. So to see faith be represented here in the Alien franchise, as it kind of was with Prometheus, and it's kind of being brought over here again, it's interesting to see that aspect play a part into something like this. And they do have a lot of good monologues and talks about things like, creation, salvation, how faith takes a part in something as horrific as, an Alien movie. And I really appreciated that, and I think it's an interesting aspect that Ridley Scott is trying to put into these films. I'm interested to see like where that is leading to. Like um, there's a lot of talk about like meeting your makers and what you would say to them, what you would ask them, like what is the meaning of life. It's just like he's dealing with it in a very interesting and smart way, and I appreciate that from a Hollywood director as big as Ridley Scott. And yeah, he does an interesting idea with it. The guy himself, I think, is I guess Billy Crudup. Yeah, Billy Crudup. He does a pretty good job. I don't really have like I he in parts he's good, and then the other parts he's not really there. Like for as important a character as he is to the story, he's not there that often. You just get little snippets of him. But when he's good, he's good. Like there's a scene where he's like, I saw the devil when I was 12 years old, so don't you be lying to me. And he's talking to David because David was like trying to get cozy with one of the backbursters, and I think it was a really interesting like just like back and forth that he had with David. But yeah, he kind of just gets he dies. He gets what is it? Face. Oh, I can't even think of the name of it. Oh, dang it. It's this thing that goes in your face and puts an alien inside you, that thing. Yeah, I said it earlier in the episode, and now I'm going to have to correct myself in editing. Great. Good job, Ross. You're doing a great job. But yeah, it's interesting to see his aspect of the film, even though he doesn't get much to do in this film, and I would have liked to see more from him. But the part he does have, very good. I was very interested. The character that I love the most, though, from this film has to be Danny McBride as the character of Tennessee. Tennessee is a great character. He's one of the two that survives at the end. I'm mentioning, like the cowboy character. He survives. Yeah, Tennessee, played by Danny McBride. I was surprised Danny McBride gave such a good performance for this film because, like, I like Danny McBride, but you don't really think of him as a actor to do good, like, dramatic work. But he did some solid work in here. I was impressed by, like, just how like well he was able to sell stuff, both just on an emotional stage and just like facially. I love the fact that even though it's 100 years later, he still loves John Denver. Like it was like a quirky thing. I love the character of Tennessee. So if we're gonna see any of these characters come back, Tennessee, I would love to see come back. I don't want it to be like Bishop in Alien 3 where he just gets killed randomly and we're just sad to see him go, even though you could have obviously brought him back, but you just decided not to. No, I want to see Tennessee come back. I want to see this guy, make more things because I love the character enough that I could, I could see like you just sitting down having a beer with Tennessee because that guy's awesome and I love Tennessee. See, was there anyone else worth talking about in this film? I'm going through like a little list here that I have pulled up from the crew of this film. Noomi Rapace is in it for a short minute as Elizabeth Shaw. That was her name. Okay. Yeah, she's in there for like a hot second and then she's gone. Guy Pearce is at it in the beginning. He's having this like little discussion with David, and he's talking about like basically he's setting up the idea of like creation, like who are we, what are we meant to do in this world. It's an interesting scene. It's honestly one of those things where it starts to get into, we're getting a little preachy and we're getting a little too much heavy-handed dialogue onto you, but it's stylized enough and I like the dialogue enough that I can buy into it. It's just, I don't know, it could have been done a little better. It's a little bit too heavy-handed in that scene, but I don't mind it overall. I want to talk about direction here for this film. This is a really well-directed film. Obviously, though, it's Ridley Scott. He does some amazing directing. He kindly gets off base. Like sometimes you can tell when he's just getting a check, runner, something like that. I believe it was Runner was the one he did. Yeah, it was just like he did. I think it was Savages was one he did that was just like the worst thing ever. Yeah, occasionally he gets off base and he's not doing what he should be, but occasionally he hits it, and when he does, it's really, really good. I'm just taking a look. Yeah, like Exodus, Gods and Kings, the count. No, it wasn't Runner. It was the Counselor. That's what I was thinking of. And he didn't do Savages either. I don't know why I thought he did Savages. But he did the Counselor and he did Exodus, Gods and Kings, both of which are just awful, awful movies. Like those were just they hurt. They hurt so much to think about. But if Ridley Scott keeps directing the way he does here with Alien Covenant, I honestly think he's back. I think he understands directing well enough. He understands how to set up a shot. He understands suspense and horror. It's just when he gets into other things, like I don't think he's good with like biblical narratives, like he tried with Exodus, Gods and Kings. I don't think he's good with like dramas. Like he's good at big concept ideas, whereas with little concept ideas, he's not that great in. Like Robin Hood, not that great. Kingdom of Heaven is good in the director's cut. So I hear, but the original is not that great. The theatrical cut, not that great. It's just you have to be very careful when it comes to Ridley Scott films because he can do really good, well thought out, big budget ideas. Like even Gladiator, like a really great big budget idea. But when it comes to like smaller ideas or even when he tries to get a bigger idea, but it's like outside of his field, like outside of suspense, outside of sci-fi, it gets too muddled, it gets too cluttered. He doesn't really understand what he's doing. But when it goes to like The Martian or Alien, he gets it. He gets how to frame it. He gets how to cause suspense. He gets just like the timing and the editing of how scenes should be shot up, and he does a great job in this film too. Honestly, one of the things I did not expect from his direction from this film, I was actually really happy with it is much more bloodier and much more gorier than I thought this film would be. Like you have the original Alien and Aliens, which they are fairly bloody. Like whenever a chest burster comes out, it's pretty disgusting, pretty like awful and gory and whatnot. But it never ever got to the point where it was like just people eating it. Like you could see people, getting, taken down, but you never saw like the blood or the viciousness or like have someone's just like face being scratched to death by a xenomorph. And in this case, yeah, you see a lot of that. You see a lot of people just getting destroyed by the alien, and the alien just coming in and just destroying. It's like there's one scene where it's like almost like a dog in the way it like just kills a person. It's like scratching at his face, biting it in the neck. Like people eat it in this film. Like this is not like Alien Resurrection or something like that where like the people are dying, but it's in just like the stupidest and bloodless ways. It's like, no, this is an absolutely bloody massacre film, and it's really it's weirdly like pleasing. Like it's in a weird way. It's like I kind of appreciate that and I love that. And so yeah, if you're going to see this film, no, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of gore, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of worth it. I would, if you're into that sort of thing, it's definitely worth a watch. I would also have to mention that this felt like there was a lot of scenes in this film where we're switching from digital film to actual like film, like 8mm or something like that. Occasionally it would just like go to like a more less high like HD shot, and it's like I wonder if he actually shot some of this on film. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But it seems like he actually filmed some of this on film, and the stuff that he looks like he shot on film is really beautiful. Like it's actually like some really beautiful footage, and I appreciate that like aspect. Like you don't have to shoot on film. Like I get it, it's a dying medium and not too many people do it anymore, and some people want to bring it back, but it's really hard to bring back something when you're already so far ahead in like technology and whatnot. But it's appreciated when I do see it, and if it is in here like it seemed to be when I watched the film, I really appreciate that. Like I don't even know if that it could just be like a digital effect they added to make it look like it was filmed on like an actual camera when it's a digital camera. But it looks really good. I like those scenes that just seem like they're more on a film stock, and that's what I just really appreciate about it. As for any remaining plot details that I forgot to spoil here. I think I got all of it during the plot segment. Like I mentioned, David eventually takes over the ship heading to the new planet. At the end of the film, he has some really great scenes. After he's taken over the ship, where he's just basically is at the apex of like his god complex that he's had throughout this entire film. And he's like, as he's going in to put in these alien embryos onto the ship to have them refrigerated, he's like asking Mother, which is like the main computer running the ship, asks her to play like a song about entering Valhalla with the gods. And it's just like the most over the top, but yet still like still interesting shot of just him just entering like a god to Valhalla. It's just such things like that give it character where it might not have on other hands. So I really do appreciate this film overall. It's interesting because it is a little bit repeating of the Alien franchise and the Alien method. But if you don't mind that, if you love the Alien like formula, you love watching that sort of thing, and you want to watch this entire film, go for it. It's really good. I do appreciate what Ridley Scott did here. I can say though, it does at times you can get very much bored by it, by just having to sit through and say that person's gonna die, that person's gonna die, that person's gonna die. Honestly, I thought everyone except the Danny character was going to die, but I was happy to see the Tennessee survived as well. And I'm interested to see what they do with those two characters in the next Alien film. I guess that he's doing like one more Alien prequel film, so interested to see what they do with those characters there. But yeah, even if you're going to be bored by the Alien formula, there are some things in here that is different, and the things will keep you interested, I think, long enough that you can enjoy this film on some level. Overall, I'd probably give this like a 7.5. It's really good. I'm just worried about the formula getting too stale, and there's just like a few minor things that don't even really matter. They're just like tiny little things. I'm just like, they're not worth mentioning, bring up in a review. It's just like not like doesn't even matter. But beyond that, yeah, 7.5. I feel this is really good. If you enjoy the Alien films, you'll love this film. Go out and see it. Don't even worry about don't even worry about the old Alien formula thing. You'll love it. It's great. For those of you who are a little more wary about the Alien formula, about, everyone getting picked off slowly until it's just one or two characters remaining, maybe think about it. Maybe hear other people's reviews about it and what you think. This is basically just my thoughts. Obviously, though, if you have listened to my review, you've probably already seen the film. So there's that. But either way, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm really tired because I've had to go through these two films and then do all the editing and writing for these episodes, and I'm done now. I can just finish editing this video and relax. But I know I have another two-parter next week. Two films I have to do for Memorial Day because that's a big weekend, and there's two really big films I think that both deserve episodes, and I want to talk about both of them. So you'll get that next week. But for right now, this is the end of episode 3. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you have anything that you want to mention to me down in the comments below, what I did wrong, just something that you want to mention offhandedly, if I did something right and you want to compliment me, thank you so much, I appreciate it. Just go ahead, comment below, and while you're at, why don't you go ahead and subscribe and like this channel. It would really help me out, and I appreciate any support that I can get from these videos. That's it all, folks. I'll see you next week with the 2 new reviews for Memorial Day. Until then, stay classy.